Exposed. 10 surprising errors senior women make before blood tests. Transform your health today. Nora sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee growing cold in front of her. The bright morning sunlight streamed in through the window, illuminating the antique table that had seen decades of love, laughter, and heartache. She perused the checklist Emily had left. 10 glaring errors senior women frequently make before blood tests. The words felt like a heated brand against her skin, igniting a fire of tension in her chest. Those words weren't just letters. They were a mirror reflecting her fears. 8, 9, 7. Time was ticking down before the tests, and with every tick resonated the deep-rooted anxiety of her family health history. Her own body, aging and aching, reminded her of the plight of the women before her who had faced similar paths without ever admitting their struggles. Emily breezed in with youthful urgency, her white coat still crisp from an early shift at the hospital. "Mom, this is serious. You have to prepare properly," she insisted, the fire in her voice frustrating yet familiar. Nora could almost hear the echo of bedtime stories. The innocent trust once wrapped in those tales now twisted into a battlefield of wills. "I can look after myself," Nora replied sharply, her heart a heavy weight of stubbornness that she often wore proudly. The nurturing spirit that had cradled Emily's childhood now felt fractured. She loved Emily, but the idea of surrendering her independence was simply unthinkable. As the days progressed, tension coiled around them like a creeping vine. Every moment spent with Emily felt like a reminder of the pride Nora clung to. She found herself reflecting on her friends, the sharp lines on their faces, the stories etched into their weary eyes. Every gathering was steeped in confession and vulnerability. They each carried their health secrets like stones in their pockets, burdening their spirits even as they clung to those familiar layers of denial. "You're fine," they'd say to one another, much like she had done. But fine wasn't assurance. Fine was a facade. Before the darkness of denial could claim her, Nora reached for an old family album hidden within the depths of a drawer. Flickering memories rushed back, revealing the faces of her own mother, her grandmother, women who bore their health grievances silently, yet with undeniable strength. These women were warriors. They fought battles she now realized were unvoiced fears passed through generations. The discovery shook Nora, sending ripples of subconscious shame and strength coursing through her veins. As she stood in the diner where laughter once rang out, shadows danced above the sidewalk, whispering tales of aging and the price of reluctance. But just as the realization began to tear down her walls, a text from Emily arrived, the screen lighting up not just with words, but with the weight of impact. "Mom, the doctor said there might be a concern that..." Their truce had slipped, replaced by a tension thick enough to suffocate. Her heart raced, the mix of remorse and fear swirling within her. Would embracing Emily's help fracture her strength? Would admitting vulnerability label her weak? The clock ticked louder now. The stakes were raised. Health was not just a personal outcome. It was an interwoven journey that bore the marks of love, fear, and tradition. Would she continue in stubborn isolation, or would she embrace the change, knowing that perhaps strength lay in connection? The uncertainty loomed, heavy, unresolved, threatening to dismantle the fragile threads of their relationship. Nora stared at her phone, the words blurring as a wave of anxiety captured her full attention. Emily's text nagged at her, the implication of uncertainty handling her like a child caught stealing cookies. It felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting, and she couldn't afford to tumble into that abyss. The weight of heritage pressed down, suffocating yet achingly familiar. The decision to face the truth about her health was now rippling outward to embrace Emily, a thought both startling and frightening. With a sudden surge of clarity, Nora pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the wooden floor. She needed to act, not only to reclaim her health, but to find her footing in this evolutionary dance with her daughter. The echoes of her mother and grandmother reverberated within her, reminding her that vulnerability could coexist with strength. Still shaking off remnants of denial, she stood at the threshold of pivotal change, yet dread snaked down her spine. Could revealing her fears empower their bond rather than break it? An idea took root, and Nora walked into her small home office, a room filled with keepsakes, awards, and fragments of an accomplished life. Her career in journalism had always demanded resilience. She systematically gathered her papers, settling into the familiar rhythm of organizing, striving to push aside the emotional chaos looming over her. As the clutter dissipated, a sense of purpose bloomed. If she could reignite that old ambition, if she could articulate her health journey through the lens of self-discovery, perhaps that would bridge the gap between her and Emily. In that moment, she began penning a letter. It formed and unfolded from within her, like steam rising from a sharply brewed pot of coffee, compelling, instinctual, and bubbling with raw honesty. "Dear Emily," she started, the pen gliding across the paper as shadows of reluctance dipped into clarity. She poured out her fears, her family history, a heartfelt confession that radiated her readiness for assistance, an olive branch extended in the hope of connection. As she wrote, Nora felt the shivers of uncertainty retreat. The act of writing became cathartic. Each stroke of the pen stripped away layers of denial, revealing vulnerability, not as a weakness, but as a path to realignment. How could she expect Emily to respect her boundaries if she never shared the truths of her fears? This acknowledgement morphed into a personal manifesto. Embracing her health meant embracing the ties that bound her to Emily. Once the letter felt complete, Nora slid it across the table, longing for a moment of courage that outstripped her previous doubts. She planned to present it to Emily over dinner, to let her daughter in and share the breadth of her vulnerability. But just as the strength of resolve surged, her phone buzzed again. Another message pulled her back. "Mom, I really need to talk. Can you come by my place tonight?" Nora's heart thudded. Was this call jeopardizing her plans, or was it an invitation to deeper understanding? The fear still gnawing at her wrapped itself around hope, creating a tempest of emotions. Would this conversation challenge the fragile construction of strength and independence she had built? The night loomed, heavy with unasked questions and unresolved tensions. It was time to confront not only her own hesitation, but also the undeniable truth behind the flame that flickered in their relationship. Would the evening finally reveal what lay hidden beneath the surface? The air crackled with anticipation, and Nora took a deep breath, ready to navigate the unfolding dynamics of their shared journey. The confrontation awaited her, and she knew this was only the beginning. Nora's heart raced as she slipped out of her house, the chill of the evening air mingling with the warmth of her anticipation. The drive to Emily's apartment felt like a march towards an uncertain battleground, one where both she and her daughter stood to defend their vulnerabilities. Thoughts of her letter swirled in her mind, yet she felt a precarious balance between fear and commitment to honesty. Would this conversation unearth the revelations they both needed, or would it further entrench the emotional distance between them? Arriving at Emily's, Nora took a moment to gather herself. She was not just a mother stepping into her daughter's space. She was a woman determined to reclaim agency in her life. The weight of her heritage, the complexity of their relationship, and the looming health concerns ignited a fervor within her, a shift from passive acceptance to a more active participation in her journey. As she entered, the dimly lit room enveloped her in a sense of intimacy that immediately broke her resolve. Emily paced back and forth, the tension palpable, her expression reflecting a mixture of anxiety and expectation. "Mom," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "we need to talk. About us." Nora swallowed hard. It was time to align her own introspection with this moment. As Emily spoke, detailing her own fears and insecurities, Nora recognized the common thread binding them, the fear of losing connection amid burgeoning independence. She wanted to offer reassurance, to convey that vulnerability could forge unity instead of isolation, but doubt crept in. Do I share my letter now, or wait for the right moment? Nora's thoughts battled within her as Emily continued. Her daughter's words struck a chord, echoing her own sentiments of estrangement and longing. I don't want to lose you, Mom, Emily said, her voice cracking. But I feel like I don't really know you anymore, like you're hiding something. The plea hung in the air, a stark challenge to all Nora had avoided. The shield of professionalism that Nora had cultivated crumbled as she confronted her own truth. The time had indeed arrived to face not just Emily but herself. The memories of her mother and grandmother reminding her that it was possible to be both open and empowered. Emily, there are things I've been afraid to share, she began, the sincerity of her voice anchoring her words. Nora felt a rush of clarity, recognizing that her journey had become as much about Emily's growth as her own. I've been struggling with my health, facing a family history that haunts me. I didn't want to burden you. Emily's eyes widened, and in that moment, the gap between them began to narrow. The hesitation faded, and Nora instinctively reached into her bag for the letter. I wrote you something. It's my truth, my fears, and my hope. As she slid the letter across the table, she felt a surge of empowerment. The vulnerability that once petrified her now felt like an invitation to rebuild their connection. Emily picked it up, her fingers trembling slightly, and began to read. Nora watched as realization dawned in her daughter's eyes, a profound shift where understanding began to take root. The room, once fraught with unspoken tensions, transformed into a space of potential healing. Yet, as Emily's gaze lifted to meet Nora's, a new spark of apprehension flickered within them both. Mom, this is a lot, Emily whispered, bracing herself against the cascade of emotions that had just been unleashed. I can't pretend to understand it all right now, but I want to try. Nora sensed the gravity of their newfound terrain, knowing that the road to discovery was fraught with unexpected hurdles and deeply buried fears. The evening had unveiled raw truths, and yet it was merely an initial step towards a daunting journey ahead. As she lifted her gaze to meet her daughter's, Nora felt both invigorated and apprehensive. How would they navigate this sea of vulnerability together? What new lessons awaited them on their shared path of healing and understanding? The future remained uncertain, but within that ambiguity, possibility glimmered, an open door to profound connections and meaningful revelations. And as Emily's next words hung in the balance, Nora braced herself for the revelations yet to unfold. Nora watched as Emily absorbed the weight of her words, her expression shifting from confusion to a searching vulnerability. The silence wrapped them in a delicate tension, the air thick with the promise of transformation, yet laced with the uncertainty of how to proceed. I didn't realize, Emily finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. All this time, I thought I was the one keeping things from you. But you've been hiding too. Nora's chest tightened. A sense of shame crept into her thoughts, and she questioned whether her honesty would only add to Emily's burden. This path they had opened was uncharted, dense with emotions and unspoken fears. I thought I was protecting you, she admitted, the weight of her decisions heavy on her heart. But every time I held back, I felt like I was creating a wall between us. It's time we tear them down, one conversation at a time. As evening shadows deepened in the room, Nora felt an unfamiliar resilience rise within her, a breakthrough born not just from sharing her struggles, but from Emily's willingness to explore her fears as well. Let's not shy away from this, she urged gently. It's tough, but it can only lead to understanding. Emily nodded, her brow furrowed with determination. I want to know everything, Mom. I don't want to go through life feeling disconnected. I want to be part of your fight, just like I want you to be part of mine. Their shared resolve breathed new life into the atmosphere. Nora could see within Emily's eyes a flicker of something powerful, a defiant spark that emboldened them both. It was no longer just about the past. It was about forging a bridge toward a future where they would no longer hide from one another. With renewed commitment, Nora took a deep breath. "Let's start with the letter," she suggested, her voice steady now. "What did you think? How did it make you feel?" Emily looked down at the letter, her fingers tracing its edges as if it contained answers to age-old questions. "It made me want to know more. About you, about your health, everything. I want to help, but I also feel lost at times," she confided, her voice trembling. "It's like I don't know how to be your support without knowing what it entails." Nora's heart swelled with compassion for her daughter. This was the essence of their conversation, the gateway to true companionship in the rawness of life's uncertainties. "We can figure it out together," she assured, feeling the strength of their connection deepening. "Each step we take, we'll learn how to guide each other through it. You have a right to know how this family history affects you." Emily looked up, realization washing over her. "Do you mean that? I don't want to just hear stories. I want to understand how to care for you better." With a glimmer of hope, Nora squeezed her daughter's hand. "And I want to empower you to navigate your own journey. It's time for us both to face our health honestly, no secrets. Let's create a plan, starting now." In that moment, Nora felt a shift. Their discussion had transmuted from a simple conversation into a pact, an agreement to confront the haunting shadows of their familial history. The bitterness of fear could evolve into the sweetness of resolve. Yet just as elation began to fill the space, a harsh reminder surfaced in Nora's mind. The legacy of her family's health issues loomed large, and the implications for Emily felt daunting. The stakes had escalated, and there was still so much to uncover. "Mom?" Emily's voice pulled Nora back, her daughter's expression suddenly serious. "What are the next steps? What do you mean by family history?" Nora's heart sank slightly. The full truth was heavy, layered with complexities she had yet to unravel completely. The veil she had cautiously lifted suddenly pressed down, threatening to choke the progress they'd made. Before she could answer, the old fears surged, and Nora felt a hesitation creep back in. Could she convey the entire narrative without overwhelming Emily? Was she prepared to unpack generations of pain and struggle? The evening air felt electric with the impending confrontation. The moment of truth was clambering forward. Just as questions filled Nora's mind, Emily reached for her phone, seemingly ready to research more about her family's medical history. "Do you think I'm going to be okay?" Emily asked, her voice a blend of curiosity and fear. Nora knew her answer had the potential to reshape their journey, the cautious reassurance versus the stark honesty of reality. As she opened her mouth to respond, the gravity of her words weighed heavily upon her. The moment of truth loomed large, and as Nora took a breath, she realized that with every step forward, the path beckoned more questions than answers. Would they wrestle with fate or embrace it together? In that uncertainty, a new chapter awaited, fraught with revelations about health, choices, and what it meant to truly support one another as mother and daughter. But first, Nora had to decide how much of their shared legacy she was willing to reveal. Nora's mind raced as she navigated the weight of her daughter's question. How much truth could she impart without overwhelming Emily? She felt the layers of her family's history pressing in on her, the stories of illness and struggle echoing like shadows in a dimly lit room. "Let's start with the basics," she replied, her voice steadier than her thoughts. "There are medical concerns in our family that have been passed down. It's not just about what happens to me. It's about understanding what you might face as well." Emily nodded, her face a mix of determination and trepidation. It was one thing to dive into a discussion. It was another to confront the reality of hereditary health issues. "I feel so unprepared," she admitted, her voice tinged with the vulnerability of someone standing at the edge of an abyss. "That's okay," Nora responded softly. "None of this is easy to talk about, but it's crucial for both of us." She took another deep breath, letting the air fill her lungs, grounding herself in the moment. "My mother had breast cancer," Her mother did too. There are other things, diabetes, heart issues. It's as if our family carries this invisible burden. Silence enveloped them, the air thick and heavy. Emily's expression shifted as she processed each word, the pieces of their family puzzle falling into place. Is that why you were so secretive about your health? Nora cringed slightly at the accuracy of Emily's observation. Yes. I thought I was protecting you by keeping you at a distance. But now I understand that this distance has made it harder for us to be honest with each other. Emily looked away for a moment, and Nora could see the wheels turning in her daughter's mind. She wanted to help, to be a part of the solution, but the fear of what this meant for her own future lurked just beneath the surface. Then we need to be proactive, Emily declared, her voice regaining strength. I want to schedule a doctor's appointment and get tested. I need to know where I stand. The resolve in Emily's voice struck Nora deeply. It was a reflection of her own desire to face the future rather than run from it. That's a good plan, Em. It's empowering to take control of your health. Yet, beneath her calm demeanor, uncertainty tugged at Nora. Would learning the truth bring strength or fear? They were pledging to delve deeper into their family's mysteries, a commitment fraught with potential revelations that could shatter their fragile understanding of autonomy. As the evening deepened outside, enveloping their home in darkness, a sense of urgency bubbled beneath the surface. What about you, Mom? Emily's question sliced through Nora's spiraling thoughts. You need to face your own health risks, too. Nora's stomach knotted at the truth. She had put herself last for so long, rationalizing neglect as a form of protection. I will, she promised, though a twinge of doubt lingered. I need the right support to tackle this. We'll find a new doctor together. Emily's eyes glinted with determination. We'll research together. I want to be fully informed so I can be there for you. In that moment, Nora felt the trembling spark of hope growing. This wasn't just a discussion about health risks. It was about trust, empowerment, and an evolution of their relationship. But with each renounced secret loomed the fear of what truths lay ahead. Then, as if sensing a shift in the air, Emily shifted the conversation to the more daunting question. What happens if we find out something really scary? Nora paused. The prospect of a daunting discovery loomed heavy, and her heart raced at the thought of how deeply these revelations could shake their foundations. They stood on the precipice of understanding, ready to leap into a world they had long avoided. Would the truths in store for them bind them together or tear them apart? As they exchanged glances filled with apprehension and determination, Nora felt an eerie sense of anticipation. Her response would reveal their trajectory into that unknown territory of familial health and personal resilience. Then we deal with it together, she said finally, her voice firm. And in that promise lay the foundation for the journey ahead. As she spoke, the shadows of doubt hung between them, hinting that the upcoming revelations would challenge everything they thought they knew about their lives and each other. The question remained, were they ready to face what lay hidden in the depths of their lineage? The following days blurred into a whirlwind of research and contemplative discussions as Nora and Emily prepared for their doctor's visits. In the cocoon of their shared resolve, they navigated the daunting expanse of familial medical history with a commitment to understanding what lay ahead. Nora was struck by her daughter's enthusiasm. Emily's determination ignited a spark within her that she had long allowed to flicker out. Each evening, they spent hours poring over articles and studies about hereditary health issues. Emily devoured information with the fervor of someone awakening to the realities of life, while Nora found herself revisiting pieces of her own past buried under years of denial. It was intimidating and transformative all at once, creating a foundation upon which they could build a new relationship based on honesty and vulnerability. Did you know that certain lifestyle changes can even mitigate some risks? Emily asked, her eyes sparkling with newfound knowledge. Nora watched her daughter, feeling a mix of admiration and fear. She was watching Emily grow into a mature adult while grappling with her own fear of losing control over her health. "Maybe we could both start exercising together," Nora suggested one evening, the thought forming a hesitant smile on her face. It felt liberating to consider not just her health, but a broader, more dynamic journey toward well-being. Emily's face broke into a wide grin. "Yes, we can make it fun, like a challenge or something." The glow of excitement lit up Emily's features, and for the first time in a long while, Nora felt a flicker of hope about their future, for both of them. However, as the days stretched into the week leading up to the appointments, an unsettling dread began to creep into Nora's mind. It was as if the closer they got to the truth, the heavier the weight of uncertainty became. What if their findings shattered the fragile hope they had nurtured? On the morning of their respective appointments, an air of thick tension settled over the household. Nora paced the kitchen, feeling a pit in her stomach that was both anticipation and trepidation. As Emily prepared to leave, she caught her mother's eye. "Mom, remember what we talked about. We're stronger together, no matter what." Nora nodded, fighting to maintain composure. They had shared in discussions of strength and vulnerability, but as she drove to the clinic, doubts flooded her mind. What if the tests revealed genetic predispositions similar to her mother's? What would it mean for her relationship with Emily? The sterile scent of antiseptic greeted Nora as she stepped into the clinic, but nothing could mask the emotional weight saturating the air. Trained nurses moved efficiently around her, yet she felt frozen in place, as if waiting to denounce the label of patient. Finally, as she sat in the examination room, the silence echoed around her. The doctor would soon enter with news that could reshape the very fabric of her existence. It was the anticipated revelation that could illuminate hidden truths or unearth her deepest fears. She had always evaded these moments, yet here she sat, at the brink of discovery, ready or not. What if the news was too heavy to bear? But her resolve hardened. After all, she had defined her existence through protection and avoidance for too long. As she sat there, heart racing in sync with the clock's ticking, she realized that this journey was not merely about health risks. It was about transformation, a separation from the shadows that had loomed large for generations. The doctor knocked lightly before entering, holding the clipboard close to her chest. Nora steadied her breath as the door swung wide. Was she truly ready for the revelations that could alter everything she thought to be true? But before she could even form a response, the doctor spoke. "I hope you're prepared for some important insights today." And at that moment, all Nora could think was that she finally had to face what had long been buried. Would the truths waiting for her be a prison or a key to liberation? The door swung open, both literally and metaphorically, inviting a reckoning that was both unknown and unavoidable. Nora's heart raced as she faced the doctor, her mind reeling with questions. Would the truths hidden in her DNA free her from the grip of fear, or would they bind her to a destiny she had tried so hard to escape? The doctor's eyes seemed to pierce through the veil of uncertainty that wrapped around Nora, and she realized she had only just begun to comprehend the magnitude of their discovery. "First, let's discuss your family history," the doctor began. Each word felt like a punch, stirring memories of whispered conversations and stolen glances at family gatherings where health was a taboo subject. As much as she wanted to shield Emily from that history, the time had come for transparency. Nora focused on the doctor's voice, trying to stay anchored amid the swirling tempest of anxiety and dread. The doctor detailed the tests, explaining genetic markers and potential health risks, with a calm authority that contrasted sharply with Nora's tumultuous emotions. When the physician finally finished speaking, Nora blinked and exhaled sharply. The knowledge had a weighty quality, both freeing and suffocating. She needed to process what she had just heard, the implications for herself and Emily. "What can we do to mitigate these risks?" Nora asked, her voice trembling slightly as it transitioned from passive to proactive. It was a shift she needed, and it echoed her inner resolve. There are many lifestyle changes that can significantly reduce risks, the doctor replied, her tone encouraging. Diet, exercise, and regular checkups are instrumental. Even mental health exercises, like mindfulness and stress management, can help improve overall well-being. As she nodded, Nora felt something shift within her, a budding sense of empowerment that had long been masked by her fears. The doctor emphasized that knowledge was not a curse, but a tool for navigating the treacherous waters ahead. It echoed Emily's earlier enthusiasm and nudged Nora towards an understanding. Perhaps they stood at the precipice of something greater than dread, a transformation toward a healthier, more informed existence. Before she left the clinic, Nora grasped a pamphlet titled Navigating Your Family Health History. On the way home, she meticulously planned how to present the information to Emily. They needed to fortify their approach together, treating this not just as a potential threat, but as a pivotal moment for their relationship, a stepping stone toward collective growth. At dinner, the air hummed with unspoken words. "Mom, how did it go?" Emily's face held a cautious blend of curiosity and concern. Nora paused, choosing her words carefully. "The doctor shared some insights about our family history, and there are things we need to be aware of." The room shifted with tension, a palpable mix of anticipation and dread, and they both sat still, waiting for the other to break the silence. Emily's eyes searched Nora's, reflecting both hope and fear. "But we can manage it, right? We can take control?" "Yes," Nora affirmed, feeling the strength of her daughter's resolve resonate within her. "We will take control." It was a commitment that rang true, aligning with their newfound dedication to each other's well-being. After dinner, they mapped out a plan for change. Together, they would start a fitness routine, choose healthier meals, and make appointments for regular checkups. They crafted intentions instead of avoiding fears, marking a significant shift in their dynamic. As they sat amidst the remnants of dinner, something unusual dawned on Nora. The feeling of dread that had so long overshadowed her life lifted, replaced by a burgeoning optimism that mirrored Emily's earlier enthusiasm. The realization turned her focus inward, prompting her to reconsider aspects of her identity she had long neglected. But just as they believed a new chapter had commenced, Nora received a text from her sister. "I need to talk. It's urgent." Nora's stomach twisted. What could it possibly be? The shadows from the past still lingered, casting a doubt over her hard-won victory. Nora's resolve wavered as uncertainty crept back in, challenging her to confront not only the health issues they faced, but also the unresolved tensions lurking in familial relationships. In that moment, she questioned everything once more. What would this conversation reveal? Could it shatter the newfound hope, or would it provide clarity and closure she desperately needed? The stakes were rising once again, demanding she confront not just her own vulnerabilities, but also the tangled web of familial connections that could either support their journey or threaten their fragile peace. With her heart pounding, she prepared to step back into the fray. Nora sat in a haze, the phone pinned to her ear, incapable of resisting the pull of curiosity. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely concealing the anxiety thrumming underneath. The response was a sharp intake of breath. Her sister's hesitation sent ripples of unease through her. "I need to tell you about Mom," her sister began, each word tinged with urgency and apprehension. The revelation gripped Nora, wrenching her back into memories she thought she had buried. As much as she had convinced herself that she had moved past the complexities of their family history, the moment demanded her attention. "What about her?" Nora pressed, the pit in her stomach deepening as old narratives began to resurface. "The doctors are running some tests, and they suspect something serious," her sister confessed, each syllable an unspoken reminder of the legacy they had been trying to navigate. The history of health issues suffocated her hope. This reality brought back flashes of past family gatherings marked by tension and whispered concerns. Nora breathed heavily, absorbing the weight of her sister's words. No longer just a matter of her own health, the stakes had escalated, and the landscape of uncertainty stretched before her. Would they have to face the same insecurities and fears that had haunted their family for generations? She remembered their mother's battles against illness, the way it transformed her strength into frailty. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Nora questioned, her voice trembling, not with blame, but with a desperate need to process their family's reality. "I was hoping it wouldn't escalate," her sister admitted. "I didn't want you to worry, especially after your appointment." Nora appreciated the sentiment, but recognized the futility in it. Deliberate ignorance had never served them well. The prospect of bringing Emily into this narrative left her uneasy. Could she shield her from familial ghosts? Or would that make the burden heavier when the truth inevitably emerged? As she hung up, the floodgates of introspection opened. The conversation acted like a mirror, reflecting not just their mother's struggles, but also her own. Her commitment to health, to breaking cycles, felt tenuous against the specter of inherited challenges. Renegotiating this relationship with her family was as essential as embracing her health journey, a truth that forced itself into her consciousness. Nora found herself in a dilemma. The resolve to confront these fears, or the temptation to retreat and protect both herself and Emily from the horror of their lineage. Was it worth risking everything to uncover truths that could reshape their lives? In this moment of indecision, she touched the pamphlet from the doctor and felt its textured paper pressing against her skin, a physical reminder that confrontation could lead to empowerment. She thought about how she and Emily had begun to approach their own fears, not as insurmountable obstacles, but as challenges ripe for handling together. "Let's start by understanding these patterns," Nora whispered to herself, determination simmering below the doubt. The path to clarity would require her to revisit the painful legacy left untouched for years. It would require bravery, not just for herself, but for Emily too. Upon reaching out to her sister for more details, Nora allowed a new sense of conviction to guide her. The intensity of her experience would not hinge on merely surviving the trauma of family history, but would instead focus on transforming that history into an actionable wake-up call. Before she could finalize her plans, another text arrived, this time from Emily. "Mom, can we talk about what we're doing for health? I've been looking at some things." A mixture of relief and apprehension surged within her. Nora felt the steadfastness of purpose rising within her as she realized they were ready to face not just their health, but also the shadows that lingered in their family. Together, they would unpack these complicated narratives, rewriting them bit by bit. But just as the light of purpose illuminated her resolve, doubt veiled her thoughts. What if digging deeper into their history only resulted in painful scars? Could she navigate effectively without losing herself, and more importantly, Emily? With a newfound commitment anchoring her, Nora realized they were both on the brink of a monumental shift. It would demand everything from her: vulnerability, strength, and an earnest willingness to confront the past while forging a future grounded in knowledge and health. The journey had just begun, and the echoes of her mother's story lingered, urging Nora to embrace whatever lay ahead. Turning her phone over, she prepared to respond to Emily. "Let's talk." With her heart racing, she knew that every conversation could lead to new revelations, a blend of hope and uncertainty drawing her ever forward into the unknown. Nora stared at her phone, the words of her sister and the anticipation of Emily's response swirling in her mind like the restless ocean. Had she truly prepared for this? To dive into the tangled web of their family's health issues meant unearthing buried truths, potentially triggering a storm of emotions. The thought clawed at her stomach, but it also ignited a spark of determination. She took a deep breath, settled into the familiar struggle of self-adequacy, and typed back to Emily. "Absolutely, let's meet tonight. We need to talk about everything," she sent, hitting send with a rush of resolve. That evening, as she sat across from Emily, a palpable tension filled the air. The dim light in the small cafe flickered, almost reflecting the uncertainty between them. Nora fixed her gaze on her daughter, searching for the right way to start. She could see traces of her mother in Emily, the same bright eyes that held questions too complex to voice directly. "Mom," Emily began, her voice steady but hesitant, "I've been looking up health screening specifically for women. I think it's important we really understand what our family history means for us." Nora's heart raced. This wasn't just about her or Emily's health anymore. It was digging deeper into their history, peeling back layers of silence that often cloaked affectionate memories. "I agree," she replied, her voice barely a whisper above the cafe's murmur. "But we need to confront all of it, the good, the bad, and the painful." "Like Grandma?" Emily's question hung in the air, tension palpable. Nora nodded, swallowing hard. Her mother's battles had, in many ways, defined their lineage of fear and resilience, a duality they could no longer afford to ignore. What if? Emily hesitated, her brow furrowing. What if we discover something alarming about our health? What if it changes everything? Nora understood this instinctual fear. She had wrestled with it for years, but this was also an opportunity, a chance to take charge. Then we face it together. Knowledge is power. It's better to make informed choices than to live under the shadow of uncertainty. Emily's gaze softened, curiosity mixing with anxiety. "So, we look at everything. Family history, symptoms, tests, all of it," she affirmed. "Exactly," Nora smiled, feeling the warmth of assurance blanket her apprehension. The conversation summoned a familiar challenge, the kind she wished to emerge from stronger, with her daughter by her side. With each passing minute, their dialogue shifted from fear to a proactive approach to their health. As they explored websites and printed pamphlets, Nora was struck by how transformative it felt to share this burden. But this newfound openness began to peel at the edges of her inner conflict. Wasn't she just as terrified? By addressing the past, they risked uncovering painful realities. Could that unravel the tightly knit fabric of their family? Shaking off her doubt, Nora shifted her focus back to Emily. She felt a swell of pride. This openness was more than just health, it was a generational shift. They were not just confronting fears, but also fostering a sense of empowerment that had eluded their family for too long. Hours passed, filled with robust discussions about wellness strategies, inherited conditions, and the mental tools they needed to equip themselves. The cafe's bustle faded into a distant hum as they delved into their family's complicated narrative, a narrative that no longer defined them, but instead became a tool for growth and knowledge. Eventually, the cafe began closing, and with it came a wave of exhaustion mingled with exhilaration. As they packed up, Nora realized this mark of solidarity was just the beginning. Yet embers of doubt still flickered in her mind, echoing old fears. What if the process exposed truths neither of them were ready to face? The moment gave her pause. She knew that every step forward held weight, not just in terms of health, but in redefining their identities. The canvas of their family story was expanding, vulnerable yet resilient. As they left the cafe and stepped into the cool night air, Nora felt the convergence of anxiety and hope. What lay ahead demanded courage, a commitment to traverse paths laden with discomfort while simultaneously reaching for a healthier future. Just when she thought she had a grasp on the conversation, her phone buzzed again. It was her sister sending a single message. "I found something about Mom. Can we talk tomorrow? It's important." In that instant, the anticipation became overwhelming. The foundation of her newly established understanding was about to be shaken again. What new revelations awaited her, and how would they rewrite the narrative she was only beginning to embrace? Nora sat on the edge of her bed, the phone resting heavily in her hand. The weight of her sister's message loomed in her mind like a storm cloud that threatened to upend everything she had begun to build with Emily, her anchor in this tumultuous sea of family health history. She took a moment to breathe, reminding herself of the resolve that had quietly emerged during their cafe conversation. the determination to face truths, no matter how unsettling. The following day, as she entered her sister's home, anxiety tangled with resolve. They settled in the living room, the air thick with unspoken tension. "What is it?" Nora asked, her heart racing. The urgency in her sister's eyes sent a jolt through her body. "I found out that Mom's tests show early signs of an inherited condition," her sister revealed, her voice a whisper that barely broke the silence. As the words sank in, Nora's breath hitched. This was the moment she feared, the reality that echoed generations of health struggles now knocking on their door. "Are you sure?" Nora questioned, her mind swirling with disbelief and despair. Would they now be entangled in a family narrative steeped in grief and loss? "I spoke to her doctor," her sister explained, her voice quaking, "and they're recommending genetic counseling for us too." The word counseling rang in Nora's ears, both a clarion call and a heavy burden. It meant confronting the very realm they'd begun to touch, and now the stakes felt impossibly real. "Mom was always scared to talk about these things," Nora murmured, recalling the secrets and silence that draped their family gatherings like a shroud. But now, there was no escaping the shadows that had lingered for too long. "Maybe we can change that," her sister responded, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "We can guide her together." Nora felt a surge of determination. She was ready to reclaim her narrative, ready to turn their collective struggles into a catalyst for growth. "We can help her face this. We can do this," she replied, her resolve strengthening with each word. As the days unfolded, Nora and her sister rallied together. They approached their mother with compassion and openness, offering support instead of fear. For the first time, they sat across from her, weaving their vulnerabilities into the conversation. The discussions, once steeped in silence, transformed into powerful exchanges of shared experiences, challenges faced and overcome. But with every truth revealed, the weight of history loomed large. It was daunting, yet liberating to share this burden. Nora no longer felt the shackles of isolation. Instead, she embraced a legacy transformed through collective strength. Their mother, too, began to shed her fears, opening up about her own struggles with health and the countless anxious moments shadowed by uncertainty. Together, they moved from darkness to light. They embraced not only the realities of their health, but also the strength of their connection, one that bridged generations. Nora found herself in a place of empowerment, proving to herself that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a pathway toward courage and growth. As the weeks passed, the bond between Nora and Emily deepened. "We've created a support system," Emily noted one evening, joy bubbling in her laughter, a stark contrast from the heavy shadows of a month ago. "I no longer feel alone in this." Nora's heart swelled with pride. Here, in the shared journey of discovery and perseverance, they were building a legacy of openness and support, one that would transcend fears. Encouraged by each other's strength, they devised plans for healthier living, attending fitness classes, cooking nutritious meals, and scheduling regular checkups. Each choice felt like a victory, cultivating confidence rather than despair. In a quiet moment at home, Nora looked in the mirror and saw a woman transformed. The once overwhelming dread had evaporated, replaced with clarity and purpose. She knew she had not just embraced her health, but also redefined what strength meant. It was about resilience, connection, and championing one another through the unknown. As she stepped out to meet Emily for their evening walk, Nora felt the dawn of a new chapter awaiting them. They were ready to face whatever lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that together they could confront any mountain. In her heart, Nora knew they had conquered more than just health fears. They had forged an unbreakable bond. In vulnerability and strength, they had found their true selves, one empowered and illuminated by love. With renewed confidence, she understood that this indeed was just the beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.